Hey guys, Austin here, coming back with a video on expanding on the Revit detail component and how you might use Revit and Dynamo, which we'll hop into. If you don't know what Dynamo is, it's kind of a visual programming way to interact with Revit. And we're going to expand on the detail component that we had from the last video. If you haven't seen it, you can go back, but this detail component calculates X and Y forces. And in the last video, I said the end goal for this was to maybe do sum of moments and sum of forces in the X and the Y, which can be kind of tedious, but it's pretty easy to automate and it saves a lot of time and potential mistakes. How this works is I made a new detail component, pretty simple. It just stores three parameters, sum of forces in the X, Y, and moment. And then with that, we'll use Dynamo to calculate the sum of forces and then the moment about a point. So you can see here I've got 100 kip feet or 100 kips acting vertical, 200 kips acting vertical over here. The Dynamo script is calculating 300 kips acting vertically. And then I know if I take 200 kips times by 1 foot, I get 200 kip feet. And if you can see as I move this dynamically, that value updates, and that's all happening in the Dynamo script. As this gets more complicated and you get more of these vectors in here, this will be helpful and save us lots of time. So let's go ahead and hop into it. This family is very simple. As I mentioned, it's just a detail component, pretty simple. The heart of it though is Dynamo. If you have not seen Dynamo, like I said, visual programming, you kind of just pick on things and it works. To get to Dynamo, you come under your view. I think it's actually maybe under add-ins, manage. Oh yeah, it's manage Dynamo. Sorry to back up a little bit too. I'm also trying to make these videos a little more polished. The last video was me kind of showing how I'd work through something on the fly. This one, I've done the work and it works. But if you have a preference for a certain type of video, certainly let me know and we can kind of tailor the content that way. But this one will be more polished, hopefully more quick. So back to it, Dynamo showed you how to access it. It's an easy way to do math and kind of programmatically interact with Revit. So if you wanted to just do simple math, you can say like X minus Y, and you can plug in values here and it will spit out results. Um, and I'm going to fly through this kind of quickly just so you can see, but the first thing that you need to do is select elements. So when you click on this, you can see Revit kind of switches over to a interactive type interface. So in order for this script to work, you need to select the detail components that you want. So it's those three elements. I don't think it shows that you've selected three, but you can know that it's done three. And then if you come back over to your Dynamo script, you can see there's three elements selected. One of the other things that's useful when you're developing Revit plugins or doing Dynamo scripts is adding this add-in called Revit Lookup. It's something that I used. So if you come over to here and click on Snoop Selection, this is basically every parameter that is associated with this detail component that we made. So the one that we don't have access to by default, but we can get it in Dynamo is this location point. And then you can see in here, it knows the X, Y, and Z coordinate of where this detail component is placed. And it knows that that's right at the tip of the tail of the detail component. So we will access this data when we write our Dynamo script. And to install the Revit lookup, if you go under GitHub, hopefully you're seeing this, and this is the lookup foundation supported by, I think it's Jeremy started it and now it's supported by others. But if you go to this web page and you click on the MSI file that you care about. I'm using Revit 2025, and I clicked on single user. The install is instant and it works well. So then with that, you can learn about other things in your Revit file by coming on here and snooping things. So I already showed what we care about. We want to know the XY position of kind of all three or every element that we're selected. So to do that, first things first, we need to know the name of the element and then the name of the family that we've created. So this element.name, how you would get that is you can kind of over here in your library do element.name, and then this will retrieve the family name. Oh, Control Z on that, of the elements that you have. So this vector family, that's the name of the family, and then the new element that I created is sum of forces X, or sum of forces detail component. If I come back to Dynamo, those are those values there. And then I think I can delete that. So the next part is I want to filter out, I want to get just the vector families, and then you're only supposed to select one of the sum of forces, that selection area. If I come back over to Revit, you're only supposed to select one of these. If I was making this better, I would filter out and maybe do some data validation that the user has selected everything correctly. But when you do this, you can select a whole bunch of vector families, but make sure you only select one sum of forces detail component. Okay. And then this, when you plug this in, I'm checking for, is there the name vector family in this list? And if it's true, I want to filter it out. So this list filter by bool mask filters out trues and falses. So I now, this top list, I only have the vector families, and then this bottom list, I only have the sum of forces detail component. So I've effectively sorted out what I want now. So next, I want to get the values of forces of the X and the Y. So if for example, let's say this rotated a little bit, let's set it at 45, you can now see there's a value associated with that. Similarly, force in the Y, all that gets dynamically updated. And that's pretty easy. We are just accessing the parameter name by a value. So I am saying go find force X and go find force Y. And that's how that is done there. Similarly, I need to go find where these elements live. So there's probably a way to do this in default Dynamo. And when I say default Dynamo, they give you a whole bunch of pre-baked functions here. So there's probably something like, let's see, element dot location. And I don't see, let's see if there's anything that says location. And maybe there's another way to do this. I ended up writing some Python code to do this. Let's see if this spits out anything. Oh, and it does. So another way to do this, but what you're going to see here is I have gone in and ripped out the location, although this looks different. Oh, this is, yeah, it's rounding. 0, this is essentially 0. With the code minus 1.25, minus 1.25. Yeah, so these are the same numbers. So there is a default Dynamo element that can do this, but you can see in here I have written some Python code with the help of ChatGPT. And if we want to get more into the coding side of Dynamo, let me know. I can do a more in-depth video on this. But by default, a lot of times you can get it done with default Dynamo, but sometimes it's easier just to write some Python code, which is natively supported. in Dynamo to maybe break down the number of spaghetti lines that you will eventually see. You can see this is a pretty simple Dynamo script, but there's a lot of spaghetti that can be intimidating. So sometimes it's easier to condense this into, I don't know why this is close. I don't know why it's giving me that um, kind of weird error, but let's controls. Yeah, sometimes Dynamo can be a little finicky. Let's close it down and reopen it. So add-ins, manage Dynamo. You can see even the polished ones take a little bit of time. Working example. Okay, and now this should, yeah, okay, so we're back. I don't know exactly what happened there. But in here, I have gone in and ripped out that data from the elements that are selected. So element.location, location.point, and then I'm ripping out the X and Y values. One thing I didn't quite touch on is if you hover over they call this a node, I believe, in Dynamo, and you click it down, you can see what is being output. So now I've got the forces and the locations, and then I do it similarly for the moment location point because you need to take some moments about that point. And then I calculate the differences in X and Y, sum of forces in the X and sum of forces in the Y, and then also sum of moments, which is just X times Y and summing those up. And then in the end, I just write those values um, to the point moment location that we've set. And it's pretty cool. That's all there is to it. And then I have this set to run automatically. So if I come back over to here and I move this, so if I move this to in line with the point, there is no more moment, which is exactly what you'd expect. I've got 200 kips. Let's move it the other way. If I set this to 180, it should be minus 200 and it updates. So I've got a kind of pretty dynamic, automatically updating sum of forces. If you wanted to add more, let's actually just get all of these acting in a line. So let's try to do this on the fly. What's this angle? Let's say this acts at 27 degrees. And then this kind of is helpful for maybe younger engineers. Aligning your work points is critical, or else you're going to get moments. Let's snap perpendicular. And let's get this guy onto the work point. And now everything's moving through this work point. So if I come back over to my Dynamo script and let's do this, move this out of the way, that, and that, and that, and that, finish. So it's recalculated that, and sum of forces or sum of moments is 0 because they're all working through that work point. The second you add in, let's say maybe 6 inches of eccentricity, so 200 times 6 should be 100 kip feet maybe. Yeah, and you can see it's working well. So that's the tool and how you might be able to use Revit and Dynamo to automate some of your tedious tasks in Revit. I know I'll be using this one moving forward because this is just tedious, and a lot of times I like to know, hey, are all my external forces that I'm thinking of here in equilibrium? A lot of times too, I want to consider the shear force in this beam, and if I set that to 180 and bring it back down to 50 kips, bring this to 90. Let's say there's 10 kips here, and you get the picture. I want to make sure that all the forces around this node are equilibrated, and I've got it all accounted for. You go in, update your selections in the Dynamo script, and then it does this for you, which is pretty cool. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm going to try to post these families and the Dynamo script up to GitHub, and if you have any questions, reach out. Thank you.